All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Monday, November 13th. F it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. Clayton, we're coming in hot because we have we've been having some of the biggest disagreements of all time in recent weeks. And I feel like we're coming into this already disagreeing on how we should start this show. Because to me, this was a monumental weekend in Hollywood. And I know you want to start one way, I want to start another, but uh, already coming in hot.
It's ridiculous that you want to start the way you want to start, but can we agree on what we always start with?
Yes.
Which is, you say
Right.
it.
Right. You give us a plow. I don't think we should start that way.
Are you fucking kidding? We always start with the plow.
All right, let's start with the plow. Clayton, could you give us a plow for the box office weekend of Friday, November 10th, 2023?
Yes, The Marvels. Number one with $47 million, an all-time low for the MCU. Number two, Five Nights at Freddy's made $9 million, down 53%. It lost 95 theaters. It's at $127.2 million in its third weekend. Number three, Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour event made $5.9 million, down 57%. It lost 756 theaters. It's at $172.5 million in its fifth weekend. Number four, Priscilla made $4.7 million, down 5%. It added 1,000 theaters. It's at 12.7 in its third weekend. And number five, Killers of the Flower Moon made $4.6 million, down 32%. It lost 429 theaters. It's at $59.9 million in its fourth weekend. Absent Journey to Bethlehem, which went down to number 7, 2.4. Looks like that one is not going to pop off. I was wrong, had it in my top 5, and you and David Thompson were right.
Yeah, Journey to Bethlehem, it's a musical. It's got Antonio Banderas, it's upbeat, and it does seem like the church bus crowd, that's not what they want nowadays.
Mm-mm.
They don't want upbeat musicals, singing Jesus, singing wise men, singing infant Jesus, singing just. They don't want that. They want they want action movies set in the jungle, and that's what they want
I
right
think
now. And hey, give it to them. Give it to them.
they want serious drama, and I think that's actually a
Yes.
good thing for the church bus crowd to be
Right.
like, we don't want this corny ass hit anymore.
Right.
We because we have The Chosen, we have these different things now. No longer will we take corny stuff. So that's
Right.
good.
Right. So yeah, they want Sound of Freedom. They don't want singing wise men. So that's fine. All right, listen, let's start the way you want to start. I wanted to start with this Wile E. Coyote story.
Yeah.
Fine. We won't start with Wile E. Coyote.
Good.
We'll start with
You.
the lowest grossing MCU movie of all time. The lowest grossing Marvel movie since what? They were putting out Blade movies in the 90s that you have to go back pre-Iron Man to find a lower grossing Marvel movie than this weekend's The Marvel. So you think that's the biggest story in Hollywood right now?
Of course it's the biggest story. It's ridiculous you didn't think it was. We'll get to it. We'll get to Acme. We'll get to this Looney Tunes movie that you're so hyped up about talking about. But okay, here's the thing.
Let's get into it.
Did not do Morbius numbers 39 million, which is what I called. Yeah. But it wasn't out of the realm of possibility, which is crazy. And this is 47 million right now is an estimate. It is going to go down.
So you think Monday actuals gets to like 45, 46 million. It's closer to Morbius than it is to it's basically equidistant between Morbius and the lowest grossing MCU movie of all time, which was The Incredible Hulk,
which was I believe 55.
Yeah.
So
it's very close to Morbius, which is stunning.
Yeah. $47 million. That's a ridiculously low number. Shout out to Wannabe Boy Austin.
Yep.
OG Wannabe Boy Austin. He went with $45 million. Wow. And at the, tomorrow morning, when you're listening to this, that could be the number. or
That could
very
be the
close
number.
to it.
Yes.
So this
Yes.
guy knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I, of course, had to go for Morbius because it would have been so historical to make that call.
Yeah,
Where were
yeah.
you, Pat? You were in the 50s?
I think I went 50 something. I think I may have had it beating Incredible Hulk. I think I went 56. David Thompson went in the 60s.
Yeah.
I listen, my thinking when we recorded the preview episode on Wednesday night, Thursday morning is that the floor of a big Marvel movie, even with superhero fatigue, even with no actors promoting this for the last couple of months, even with all that, I still thought the floor for a Marvel movie would be 50s or 60. I mean, Quantum Mania, for all of the problems that had, disliked movie, everyone crapping on the special effects ahead of time, people being sick of it before it came out. That's still open to $102 million in a 3-day. So
Mhm.
so to me, the floor for a Marvel movie still had to be in the 50s or 60s. So for this now to go under 50 is stunning. I mean, we have been talking a lot about why this movie seemed like it was going to underperform. I still think the biggest thing is just the genre is tired, and not just tired. I think it was tired a year ago. I think we're heading into reviled territory
Mm.
with the
Mhm.
superhero genre. I don't think it had anything to do with this movie in particular. I
No.
haven't seen this movie, The Marvels. I probably will never see this movie at this point. uh, there are many Marvel movies where I'm just not gonna see them,
Yeah.
and I think that the movie itself did not matter one
No.
way or another. It didn't make the performance any less. If the release dates were reversed, Quantum Mania this weekend would have opened to
Yeah,
$47 million.
I think that's really important to really talk about when it comes to this movie, right?
Yeah,
Because there's going to be a lot of chatter online, as there always is, about what are the reasonings for this,
yeah.
and there's going to be a lot of things where it's about the director and about the people in this movie, and the facts are, this is a bottom tier Marvel character. That
Mhm.
is why you cannot get away with that anymore. Going forward, these movies have to be Iron Man movies, Captain America movies, maybe Black Panther movies, but there's no Black Panther anymore, really. I mean,
Right,
Chadwick Boseman
right.
was Black Panther, so you're not gonna get away with what they did with this last one again. You're just not.
Right, right. Black Panther 2 was coasting on the what will they do? People first one was so beloved.
Yeah.
I do think even with Black Panther 2, there was some thought for just general audiences that they may have thought they had filmed some stuff with Chadwick Boseman that was going
Mhm.
to be in the movie. Like I honestly do think some amount of people were going to that movie thinking the original Black Panther may have been in some scenes. Like honestly, and
Yeah.
I do think that was part of it. So those sequels are now going to be in the same boat as these other Marvel franchises.
And like David Thompson said, Spider-Man, when he cut the
Yes.
shit at the end of our episode, when he was
Yep.
talking directly to Marvel, because
Yep.
obviously Marvel listens, Sony listens, Paramount listens, they all listen. He said Spider-Man, more Spider-Man, and that is smart because that is what people want. Now, they have pushed all the other movies out of 2024 except for Deadpool 3 because I think Deadpool 3 is as close to a slam dunk as you're gonna get. But
Yes.
after
Yes.
this, still, like, who knows? Because Kevin Feige's got his little fingies in there.
These guys fingies. Yeah.
And is he doing his bullshit where it's like, well, we got to add this thread and add this thread and add this thread instead of being like, let Deadpool piss all over it. Let
Yes.
Deadpool piss all over your continuity because that's why people like the first two movies because he didn't
Yes.
take that shit seriously. Deadpool killed the Deadpool from Wolverine Origins at the end of the second movie, right? As a
Deadpool
goof.
Deadpool 3, I think they need to, and again, Deadpool is the easiest movie to just rewrite on the fly because it's all voiceover. He's under the mask and you just rewrite it and reloop the voiceover. Deadpool 3 should be about the box office performances of the recent superhero movies.
Yeah.
Like honestly, Deadpool should be constantly talking about the opening weekend of Quantumania, opening weekend of the Marvels. Have him, of course, talk about Blue Beetle and Shazam 2, because that's the thing with Deadpool's. He'll go the places where other superheroes won't go. And that's what that movie should be about. It should be a meta movie about the box office decline of superhero movies. And throughout that movie, he's tracking his own opening weekend box office and seeing it go up and up and up. Then goes down right before the third act because the hero is in crisis. So the end of the second act of Deadpool 3 is, oh my God, this movie is going to open lower than the Marvels. And
Mhm.
then boom, third act, Deadpool kicks it into gear, gets that box office gross up to $160 million by the end of the movie. That is what Deadpool 3 should be about.
Well, there is a level of meta-ness to it about the Fox Disney merger because we've already seen photos of the set. Who knows if it is in the movie of a
Mhm.
crumbling 20th Century Fox logo
Yep.
that has been shot. So there will be those sort of things. Now, does Kevin Feige have enough of a sense of humor when it comes to his job being in danger
Kevin
here?
Feige should be in Deadpool 3, and
Yeah.
there needs to be a scene with Deadpool where he's got like a sword up to his neck and Kevin Feige swears, "I'm going to stop doing the Disney Plus shows. I'm going
Mhm.
to get Downey back." Deadpool 3 should be about Deadpool and Kevin Feige getting Robert Downey Jr. to sign up to play Iron Man again
Yes.
in a future Avengers sequel. That
Yeah.
is, and again, Deadpool movies, they could reloop the dialogue next week. It doesn't matter
Absolutely.
what the script was up until this week. It's just Deadpool walking around, and you could have it be about him saying, "We got to get Downey to sign into an Avengers sequel."
Now, I'm going to jump right into demos here because I think demos are
Okay.
very important to show why this movie is failing
Hmm.
and why Marvel is in major trouble. This movie, The Marvels,
Yes.
65% male leaning, with
Hmm.
45% over 25, 22% women over 25, men under 25 at 20%, and women under 25 at 14%.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
Biggest demo is 25 to 34. When you look at these demos of Five Nights at Freddy's, things like that,
Right. Right.
of course, that's very youngster leaning. But under 25 women for a movie that stars several women,
Right.
and not that, listen, I don't want to be the guy who's like, women only, women should go see movies with women in it. Like,
Right. Right.
but there is a level of, hey, I'd like to see a bunch of women on screen. I mean, that is something that
Who
is
wouldn't?
actually
Sure.
what women actually think, right? Okay.
Okay.
But the women under 25 said, "Fuck this. I don't care. I don't care that there's women on the screen here because I don't care about Marvel. I don't care about this dorky shit." We are now in the serious hardcores. The serious
Yes.
hardcores are seeing this movie, and that is 47 million people and dwindling because,
$47 million worth of
yeah,
people.
$47 million worth of people. I'm sorry. My
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
apologies. So, yeah, so that's what we're looking at. Dude, I sent you because it leaked everywhere. And David Thompson,
Mhm.
again, name checking him, you
Yeah.
know, he was talking about how the stingers already leaked. Like all the
Right.
important
They're
information
on
from this
TikTok.
movie
They're on TikTok.
for
Yeah.
the dorks has leaked
Yep.
and people were goofing on it.
Yeah.
And I sent it to you and we were laughing at it.
Laughing. We were having a laugh.
We were having a laugh.
We were having a laugh.
It is so ridiculous. And
Let
and
let's
we don't
say right now, spoiler alert, spoiler. We're gonna give spoilers for a stinger that was spoiled a week ago on TikTok. And also no one cares about it. Could we
yeah.
now say what the spoiler is for the reveals at the end of the Marvels? Or
I mean,
could you say the big one you sent me? Because
uh,
we gotta let the wannabe oh boys, wannabe oh girls, wannabe oh people
people.
have a laugh with us about these reveals. So Clayton, can you tell us what is the big stinger of who's gonna be in a future Marvel movie?
So it is Kelsey Grammer's Beast from the X-Men movies.
Oh
Now,
my god.
number one, here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
Good for Kelsey Grammer.
Oh, great
Good
for
for Kelsey
Kelsey
Grammer.
Grammer.
He's having a amazing year. Frasier reboot
Yep.
on Paramount Plus, so
Yep.
doing some streamo business.
Yep.
And he's in a huge Marvel movie as the Stinger.
As the Stinger.
I mean,
When Marvel said we've got to get young people excited about the MCU again. What can we do? What can we do? Can we get Chalamet? Can we get, Taylor Swift here? No, I got it. Kevin Feige's I got it. Kelsey Grammer is back as Beast. That's going to reignite the flames with the young people of the MCU.
and
That's
that's
what he
good
said.
and we were pushing for X-Men and Fantastic Four, do that as early as possible. That seems to be the plan, but
Yeah.
it's laughable
It's
here
laughable.
that you
Laughable.
went from a few years ago with the Eternals, which is a movie that, didn't had the same cinema score as this, a
Mhm.
B. You had Harry Styles as the guy at the end.
Right.
In
Right.
Thor, you had that doofus from that Apple Plus show as Hercules. That'll never happen, but you had that doofus.
Right, they had Hercules as a stinger in one of these.
Yeah. And, again, Doctor Strange, you had Charlize Theron as Clea. So, like, now we're in Kelsey Grammer territory. And I have
What
nothing against Kelsey Grammer, and I think he does an amazing Beast. The Beast was great at the
Right.
time, a great Beast, but we are really in serious, dork-heavy, not moving forward, only looking back territory because
Right, right.
you have to have somebody new. You can't keep relying on these old stars now, which is what they're going to do going forward. I don't think they can do a X-Men without the legacy characters at this point because
Right. Well,
people
they
won't
tried.
allow it.
They tried with X-Men New Class with
Mhm.
Jennifer Lawrence, who is as hot as anyone got at that time, and that movie did like 150 domestic total, and they had to bring back all
They
of
had to
the
do the
90s
crossover.
X-Men to reboot that, and that was when it was at Fox. So we've talked about it. X-Men is not a slam doink as
No.
far as like the thing that saves Marvel, other than Deadpool. But the non-Deadpool X-Men, that is not a slam doink. And the thing with Kelsey Grammer coming into this, it goes back to something you've been saying a lot about Marvel over the years. In the end, Marvel is all about scheduling. And in
Yes.
the past, though, their scheduling department was able to put together Avengers movies and get
Mhm.
Downey and Chris Hemsworth and Scarlett Johansson and Mark Ruffalo and Tom Hiddleston and all these big stars, Chris Evans, schedule them to be together in a movie. Now, their scheduling department is basically, hey, Kelsey Grammer is looking to promote the new streaming reboot of Frasier. So he'll do the Marvels cameo, so it comes out the same week as his Paramount Plus reboot, and he can get that cross promotion. So we could get Grammer, and
Mhm.
that's what the Marvel scheduling department is able to pull off now. I mean, it's all, again, it has nothing to do with this Marvels movie. I really do think that if the Marvels came out this past February, it would have opened to around 100 million. And if instead Quantum Mania was opening this weekend, it opens to 47 million. The genre itself is just not cool.
No.
And it's crossing over into, it is a thing people are actively hating and goofing on. The
Well, because they
superhero stuff, other than specific characters that people want to
yes.
see. And I do think it's going to start to affect to some degree even those, maybe like Batman, Spider-Man, Deadpool, I think are impervious.
I don't
But
think Deadpool's impervious, to be honest with you,
you
because
don't think that,
that
but
sort of
he's
that
got the
sort of humor.
armor of quip with it, where he could make fun of again, the next movie has to be about box office.
I think there could be a level of fatigue when it comes to Ryan Reynolds and his sort of humor. I
Right, the
think
cell phone company stuff, yeah.
there definitely is there was
Mhm.
like Robin Williams was very, very big comedic wise for a long time. And then people were like, oh my God, this guy needs to shut up. RIP, obviously. But
Obviously.
there is going to be a level of fatigue with that humor. So I don't think Deadpool is ironclad. I think your ironclad ones for Marvel, you only got one. is Spider-Man, who's his refillable.
Yeah.
Iron Man is not refillable. Iron Man is a lame character without Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
The only one you have is Spider-Man, and DC, the only ones you have are Joker and Batman. Those
Yes.
are the two, because Superman is a loser. And maybe this James Gunn movie might be huge, but otherwise, you're not going to be able to build a universe around Superman because he's a goody two
I
shoes.
mean, if the James Gunn movie ever comes out, because I mean, we'll get to it later. As we're seeing, even James Gunn isn't safe in terms of getting his movies released by Warner
I
Brothers.
mean,
So who knows?
like Looney
We'll
Tunes
get to
compared
it.
to Superman. I mean, I
We'll,
think that's apples and oranges for,
we'll
but
get to it.
we'll
We'll
get
get
to it.
to it. But yeah, I mean, this weekend, I think they were hoping, Disney was hoping that the actors strike ending and the ability of stars to promote, I think they hope that last minute push at the end of the week would do something. They got
What
Brie
was it gonna
Larson. They
do?
got Brie Larson on the Tonight Show. She was sitting next to Jimmy. I didn't see the interview. I don't know if Jimmy tousled her hair.
Oh,
Did his famous
the,
move. They may have played, karaoke beer pong. I'm not sure. I have not seen it. I have not watched it on YouTube.
you're of
But
course
she was
talking about what he did Trump's hair, the
the
reverse Hugh Grant.
the famous reverse Hugh Grant,
Yeah.
yeah, as everyone knows it as. But
Hmm.
the actors being able to promote last minute. I mean, listen, I sent this to you that Brie Larson was able to post on Instagram promoting Captain Marvel, and she posted a picture of herself in the suit, looking as bored as humanly possible. And I'm not here to join in the, all this bad faith
Bashing.
anti Brie Larson, because she should be bored, because she is an actress who has been a great actress in things a long time ago, but we've seen her be a real actress. The
Yeah.
people in these movies cannot any longer feign interest in the movies they're in. The
Yeah.
director of this film, who directed a Candyman movie a few years ago that performed really well at the box office in
Yeah.
summer of 2021, she has for a while now been trying. She knew this was coming, and she's been trying to distance herself from the impending failure of this movie. And that is where people are at with these movies now. They're
Yeah.
not able to pretend, Downey crapped all over Iron Man when he was promoting Oppenheimer. The stars know that the audiences think this is lame. And so they cannot pretend that this is awesome anymore, because they
Yeah.
would just look bad. So when Brie Larson posts a photo of herself looking bored in the superhero costume, she has to do that, because she can't say this is the most exciting thing I've ever done, because you just look even worse if you do that.
Pat, you're seeing bored. When I see that picture,
Uh-huh.
I see somebody whose soul is being caged. I see
Yeah.
somebody who is being held hostage.
Mhm.
That's what I see. I don't see
Yeah.
boredom in those eyes.
Fear.
I see, oh, I mean, I have to do this, and I
Yes.
hate that I have to do this.
Yes. Yes. She should be holding up today's newspaper with her Instagram photo dressed as Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Because these are basically hostage kidnapping photos that they're posting on Instagram. That is what
I
the end of the SAG strike has allowed, is that Brie Larson can now post these kidnapping photos of herself in the Captain Marvel costume and say, "Go see this, please." They're Kevin Feige is telling me I have to tell you to go see this movie this weekend.
Yeah, and I so wish, yeah, you're so right. I really wish, and this is nothing against Paul Rudd or Peyton Reed or
Mhm.
anybody involved with the Quantum Mania mess. I do wish that this would have came out after the Marvels, just
Yes.
because it would have proved such a point that it isn't about what people are saying it's about. It
Right.
is about the fact that nobody wants to see these movies anymore
Nobody wants to see
unless
these
they
movies.
have marquee characters in them, and those marquee characters don't really exist anymore.
Right, right. Yeah, it's you went over the demos, and you went over the huge shift where this is so now dominated by a male audience.
Mhm.
And I think a big thing that we've seen this year, and we're seeing right now at the box office, is that women have their own superheroes at the box office, but it's not going to be just pick a female character from a superhero magazine and make a movie out of it. They don't care about Captain Marvel. I think if Wonder Woman came out next week, that would bomb. They don't care about that. Their superhero is Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is the female superhero movie that is dominating at the box office. Their superhero is Barbie.
Yes.
Women have their big franchises this year that they are going
Yes.
to because they care about those. They don't
Yes.
care about this boy geek comic book stuff anymore, and they shouldn't, and they never should have. It was sad that all these last 10 years, the female audience, and of course, there's lots of women who love comic books, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of everyone who loves everything.
Thank you.
But so much of the last 10 years was a degree of, fine, I'll go. Fine, I'll pretend I'm into this. And maybe for some portion of the MCU, hey, it was interesting and cool enough that for a few years, that audience actually did think they were into it or were into it. But
Yeah.
now that's over, and women have movies in a big way that they care about. They've got Barbie and Taylor Swift, and not to just
Yes.
generalize it, but in terms of giant blockbusters, those movies are bigger than superhero movies right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also listen, I don't want to call myself a hater because I'm not a hater, but
No, we
as
don't
a
drink the
move,
haterade. We never have.
we drink
Our stomach,
Prime.
we drink, yes, we drink
We drink
Prime. Logan
Prime.
Paul, our new United States champion, we
Yep.
drink Prime.
1.2 billion, baby.
Mhm.
I don't want to discount the level of okay, I don't want to discount what Marvel did in those 10 years, all right?
Oh, of course.
Because it's very easy to go back there and be like people were being forced to whatever.
Yes,
There,
they
it,
they
it was
they
an
were
un
they
it was
enjoyed it, or they thought
yes.
they did at the time, for
There
sure.
was unprecedented run of movies and the way that everything weaved into it had never been done before on that
Yeah,
level.
yeah,
And that has to be applauded.
yes.
But know when to bow out, know when to pare down, know
Well,
when to focus on your strengths until you can come back stronger. And that is the hubris that is killing Marvel. They thought people would watch TV shows every month. They thought people would see movies every 3 months. They oversaturated. I mean, not to talk about TV, but Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was great when it first came out, and then when it was on every night of the week,
right.
then people said, "Do we really need to see, Regis Philbin with his matching shirt and tie color?" Remember when that was a big thing? He even
Oh, they were selling it at Kmart, and
yeah,
everyone was buying it,
right?
and
But
everyone was buying it.
they oversaturated it and it
Yes,
became lame, and that is
yes,
what happened to Marvel. So, Kevin
yes.
Feige, I
Regis
mean,
was cool the same way Marvel was cool, and then Regis got lame the same way
yeah,
Marvel is now lame. It's a story as old as
absolutely.
time. Yep.
And so I do think that I don't know if it's smart or if it's saving face or if it's because of the strike, but moving those movies, moving Thunderbolts, moving Captain America, moving everything out of next year except for
Yep.
Deadpool, which is as close to us, like I said, close to a slam dunk as possible. Even now, question mark here. I think they need to just do the regroup. Absolutely, just do the regroup and
Yeah.
figure it out and say, all right, are we doing X-Men? Is that our next thing? Let's wipe the slate clean here. And I think they have an ability to do that.
Yeah. I think you mentioned paring down, and I do think that is not just paring down the amount of TV content they make, which it seems like they're already doing that, and they're going to disconnect the TV shows from the movies, and
Yeah.
allow people to, if you just want to watch the movies, all you got to do is watch the movies to go see a movie. But these budgets of these superhero movies, I think, have to come down because the box office is not going to be there to justify them costing 200, $300 million a movie. Other
Mhm.
than a Batman, a Spider-Man, a Joker, there's no guarantee anymore that these movies will ever make 600, 700, $800 million. They're just not gonna. So I think they've got to figure out how to comp them to the budgets, and there's inflation, but a Blade movie in 1998 didn't need to make $300 million to be successful. Those
Yes.
movies were successful. Those 90s superhero movies, early 2000s superhero movies, because these now are going to be more and more the hardcore fans are going to be who goes to see these, whether they're
Mhm.
good or not. I honestly,
Yes.
I don't think these movies, and by some accounts, the Marvels was a fun movie, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the Marvels was better than Quantumania. The audience is just going to be smaller. And so they've got to make movies that don't cost as much because they are not going to be, other than the 3, 4, main characters, these are not going to be the biggest movies of the year anymore. They're just
But
not.
Pat,
Thunderbolts cannot cost $280 million. It might have to at this point because they've already shot some of it and are redoing the whole movie, but you can't make a Thunderbolts in 3 years that costs 300 million anymore because the box office will never justify it again.
but you saying that this is better than some of the other movies, I mean, when we're talking cinema score, and this is for the people who are the hardcores. This was
Right.
the dudes who
Right.
are Marvel obsessives who, spoiler alert, give a shit that at the end Binary shows up,
What
which is
is
a
that?
character that was a character from the X-Men in the 80s and 90s
Okay.
who is a different version of a Captain Marvel, and
Okay. Wow.
so dustbin, so bottom of the barrel, even for me who was a comic book fan in the 90s and
Right.
that era.
Right.
These people gave this a B, which is
Right.
like giving it an F because
A
Doctor
B is bad.
Strange
That's how you
y
interpret cinema scores is B equals bad.
Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness got a B+, Thor: Love and Thunder got a B+, Eternals got a B, Ant-Man and the Wasp:
Right.
Quantumania got a B. So, this is at the level,
Mhm.
according to these fans, these
Right.
hardcore dorks, this is a B-level movie,
Right. Which is bad.
which is B, which is bad, which is basically and I would say it's not enough because at least an F is interesting. A B
Right.
is bad. Yes,
Right.
absolutely. So
Right.
this is not a movie that I think is going to have legs. Uh, I mean, the drop might be small on this, but who knows? I mean, it could also have like a Morbius level drop here.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it on our preview episode. And listen, schedules change, people get busy. This man especially gets busy.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'm going to say it right here. As of this moment, Scott Mendelson is scheduled to be on the next episode of the BO Boys, and we'll be previewing the opening weekend of the Hunger Games reboot, Song of Snowbirds and Snakes or something. Maybe snowboards,
Well, Pat, I
birds.
would
But
say
that movie, that Hunger Games reboot, that could, and again, we'll go into detail in the next episode, that could completely cut the legs off of this Captain Marvel second weekend.
And
Completely.
all I'm gonna say is learn the title of that movie. You gotta learn the title of that movie
Songbirds and
because
Snakes. Songbirds and
yeah.
Snakes.
And that's the thing is, again,
Ballad of Songbirds
craziest
and Snakes. I just
thank you.
remembered. I wasn't looking. I was not Googling. I was just going through the old fashioned way, and I saw it in my head. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Craziest year for box office we've had in a
Yep.
very long time because of this shift. And I think this Hunger Games prequel is gonna be part of that
Yes.
because and we'll get into it,
We'll get
but
into it. Possibly with Scott Mendelson, but his schedule is packed, so he may have to pull out last minute. But as of this
bef
moment, yeah.
before we talk about Acme, the thing that people are so worried about is if Marvel movies start bombing, theaters are gonna go under because what's
Right.
gonna be Marvel? Stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it,
Stop it.
because we've
Stop it. Is
seen it.
Daddy coming home right now? Is Daddy
Daddy
coming?
is
Okay.
fucking home.
Okay.
Daddy is
Daddy.
home.
Daddy, talk to us, Daddy.
Look at these out of nowhere hits that have happened.
Mhm.
And I'm not gonna say Barbie's out of nowhere, but it definitely was way bigger than anybody thought it was gonna be.
You were predicting $30
Oppenheimer.
million like a few weeks out. So
Oh,
yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer,
Oh,
bigger than
oh,
anybody thought it was gonna be. You've got this Taylor Swift movie that drops into people's lap. I'm sorry, event, not movie. Event.
movie.
Still, it
Sure.
was in theaters and it made Bobo.
Yep.
Then you've got Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah. Sound
So
of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. So here's the thing is
Right.
that things will come and replace these Marvel movies. We're seeing
Yes.
it happen. Do not act like we have to hold on to the
Mhm.
hem of
Right.
these superheroes
Right.
because we're afraid that theaters are going to go under. They will not go under if Marvel does not make as many movies.
Right.
There are
John Wayne
people
died. John Wayne died.
and
Dead.
movies were still in theaters.
And movie theaters stayed open. They
Yes.
buried him 8 feet under just to be safe.
Yeah.
And movie theaters stayed open.
They
All
double
right?
locked the coffin.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No bell. No bell.
No, no. And there's a guard still,
To make
gray
sure.
gear down to his to make sure.
Yep.
And that's what's going on with John Wayne, and the movie theaters stayed open. So you could
So
do the
yeah.
same thing to these superheroes, and the movie theaters will stay open.
Okay. Great. Let's get into what you wanted to start the show
Okay, well, we
with.
didn't. We didn't, so there's no we
Okay.
don't have to let's talk about this story because do you disagree? I think this is a huge story. I do think that
I
so the basics of this story are there was going to be a comedic, animated live action hybrid, a Roger Rabbit type film called what is it? Acme v Coyote? Is that the Coyote v Acme? And it was based on a comedic essay years ago. Wile E. Coyote suing the Acme Corporation. It's a Looney Tunes film. John Cena was the lead live action star, and James Gunn co-wrote and was producing this film. So this was a movie
okay.
we had talked about it on this show. I think when it was announced, it was one of those ideas that were like, "This sounds fun, and it's already made. It's already been screening. Test screenings have been going out, and the announcement came out that it was Batgirl. Warner Brothers is shelving it, not to send it to cable, not to send it to HBO. It will never be seen. It is in the Jerry Lewis Holocaust Clown movie vault to
Mhm.
never be seen again, to get a $30 million tax write-off on a movie that I think cost like 80 or $90 million, like in that range. And it was supposed to be a theatrical release, and instead they're taking a $30 million tax write-off to never use it in any way ever.
Now
And
wait, are you sure that budget was that high?
maybe it was
Wasn't it a
less. It might have
wasn't
been
it a $40 million budget?
that probably makes more sense. It was in that range. I don't think it could be any lower than that. Like this is meant to be a theatrical movie. But either way, it was a movie with John Cena, who is, listen, not a giant movie star, but the guy's in a lot of big movies. He's in a big show for Warner Brothers. The Peacemaker show was a hit show for them. James
Yeah.
Gunn. But I feel like you're already poo-pooing the story. And
Okay,
I think
sorry.
it's because I think it's because when the Batgirl decision was made last year, and I've been thinking about this a lot this weekend. In retrospect, honestly feel bad at how flippant we were about the Batgirl move because we were texting about this. You said it yourself. They came for Batgirl, we said nothing, and now here we are,
Yeah.
where this James Gunn produced John Cena movie is sent to the Jerry Lewis Holocaust Clown vault to never be seen again. I
With
think this
Roger
is a big
Avery's
deal.
Glitterati.
With Glitterati, yes. And I do think this is a huge deal for several reasons. And the biggest one is Warner Brothers right now seems like a complete disaster of a studio.
Yeah.
And not to pile on to the all rich people are evil, blah, 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 but this David Zaslav running Warner Brothers is someone who I think at this point it has to go. Has to go.
Yeah.
Not just because of his decision, but putting the studio that made Goodfellas into this position where they are just fully a laughing stock is, I think, just a detriment to the whole movie industry.
Yeah, I think here's where okay, let's get the facts right money wise. $70
Yeah.
million production, they took a $30 million write down.
Yep. Great. So
So
I
that's
was
what it
pretty
is.
much, yeah, I was pretty close on my guesstimate of the budget when I said
Yeah.
80 or 90 million. Yeah.
So I think here's where we agree and here's where we disagree. Okay.
Okay.
This movie would have done jack shit at the box office because no one gives a fuck about the Looney Tunes.
You,
And
but
John Cena, hold on.
okay, I'll
And
let you
John
speak,
Cena,
but this is
let
going to
me
be our biggest disagreement of all time.
no, let me speak. John Cena is not a star. He does not put butts in seats. We have seen this. Okay.
Oh, okay. Just
But
okay. I'll
when
let
does
you
he
speak.
put butts in seats, my friend?
I'll let
I
you
know you're
speak.
going to say kids' movies, but
Kids
those
movies.
movies that he was in did not have $70 million budgets. Okay. Here's the thing the Looney Tunes are as dead as the Muppets. They might as well be used to wax Zaslav's car if they were actually physical. I mean, Muppets, Bob Iger can get a nice wax with the Muppets. That's what they're good for. Those two IPs are worth jack shit. Here's where we agree is that you need to be in the movie business to make movies. If you want to make money, then you should be in the porta potty business. If Zaslav wants to be the sort of person he is, where he's taking tax write offs and he's doing all these things just to make money and save money, then he should be in the portable crapper business, not in the movie business. Because, like you said, Warner Brothers, there was a level of we're going to invest in these artists, we're going to invest in Clint. We're going to invest in Ben Affleck until he made one bad movie and then they threw him overboard. We're going to invest in filmmakers. And what Zaslav is doing is he doesn't give a shit what's being made. He only is looking at dollars. And that is bad for a movie company. Okay. That's where we agree is that it doesn't matter that I think this movie is going to make jack shit. I think it's important that the head of the studio is like, we like this movie. We believe in this movie. We want to be in a good place with this star and this writer and this producer. And we're going to put this out in theaters because that's what movie companies do.
Well, totally agree there, though. I think that listen, of course it could have bombed. Of
It would
course,
have
anything
bombed.
a bomb. It could have bombed.
Would
The
have.
the the word that you hear a lot on this since this news broke is a lot of people who've seen it saying it's really good. And listen, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but that's a thing you didn't when the Back Row movie came out, and maybe there's other factors as why you weren't hearing that. The word of people who saw it was that was a pretty bad movie. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe there were other factors. Maybe people were biased against it for whatever reasons, but you never heard any defenders of this was really great. The quality of this, it would have done well. You are hearing a lot of that about this movie. And I know the Looney Tunes IP is what it is, but it could be good. It's a good idea. This maybe everyone who said the test scores apparently were really high. People who saw it like this movie. You say it wouldn't have done anything. If a movie's good, it has recognizable IP. Listen, again, you're the guy who a few weeks out was saying Barbie was going to open at $30 million. The Looney Tunes are not Barbie. John Cena is not
No.
Margot Robbie, all
Come
that.
on.
But this is a $30 million write-off, betting that this movie in movie theaters couldn't possibly have made a profit versus $30 million write-off. It's like you said, if you're a movie studio, you have to put these movies out
Yeah.
because in the end, say this movie came out and made $20 million total. And so what do you make? And of course, I know there's marketing costs to put a movie in the movie theaters, but if you're penny pinching because you just think that this $30 million write-off will probably make you more money by $1 million or $2 than what you would get if you put this movie out in theaters, fold up the entire studio.
Mm-hmm.
Fold up the entire studio. And like you said, and that's the thing with David Zaslav is he just happens to be in charge of the movie studio.
Yeah.
But for him, he's a guy who 5 years from now will not be in the entertainment business. He'll be a
Nope.
CEO because
Yeah.
once you're a CEO for life, and he'll be running a phone company or a butt plug company
Mhm.
or, some kind of like data mining hat company, something like that, and he'll be making $80 million a year and he'll be a CEO. He's not going to be in the movie business.
Yes.
But right now, Warner Brothers is stuck with him being the head of the studio. And that is
Mhm.
at this point, I think like I do think this movie being shelved is a huge problem for the movie business because this is a movie testing well, recognizable IP, recognizable star. James Gunn, huge name talent as a writer producer on this. And if this movie is shelved, I do think at this point anything could possibly shelved. He- like again,
Superman could get
Wiley
shelved. Yes.
Superman could get shelved. Wiley Coyote is not Barbie, but there is a world where a few months before Barbie comes out, David Zaslav looks at that movie and says, "You know what? We'll get X amount of dollars if we never put Barbie in theaters." There is a world in which David Zaslav never put Barbie in the movie theaters because
Uh,
this is not uh this comes down to it's something he needs to do at the end of the year to ensure that the stockholders get a certain amount of dividend. He gets a bonus. And again, not to sound someone who's, well, corporations are all evil. They are, but not to make that the reason I'm
no,
saying this.
yeah.
No, but it's all comes down to in this moment, end of year, he shelved this movie because it'll do X, Y, and Z for him. And if things broke differently, that would have been Barbie. Because to
See,
him, he doesn't know the difference between any of
yeah.
these movies. Batgirl, Barbie, Wile E. Coyote versus Acme, they're all the same thing. So if Barbie was being released at a time where it would have made sense for him to write it off as a tax refund, that would have happened. And I think that is the thing that this story, why this is such a giant story, because any movie Warner Brothers makes could possibly get Batgirl, could possibly get Acme Coyote. It could have been Barbie. It could
Yeah,
be any movie.
I
Any
think
movie.
that is such a great point because if you're James Gunn and you are now in charge of DC and you wrote this movie and you shepherded this movie and your boss says, "Oh, well, you know what? It's not worth it to release this, so we're going to take the $30 million."
Which is so
That
small.
that that does not inspire confidence,
Right.
right, in what you're trying to do with DC. It also keeps other artists away because,
Yes.
remember, Nolan left Warner Brothers because of their
Yep.
day and date strategy, and
Yep.
he had a huge. He's bigger than he has ever been. He is bigger
Yes.
now than he was when he was doing Batman
A
movies.
hundred
Okay,
percent. 100%.
and so he is a guy you want to come and work for your company and make money and make movies for you. And he left Warner Brothers, and that is a stain on them. And
Yes.
that's so
He
it's one of
saw it
those
coming.
things.
Nolan saw this coming. He saw
It's
Zaslav. He and this is not my saying, this is the you saying. He read him for filth. He looked at David Zaslav and he read him for filth back in the
mhm.
summer of 2020, 2021. He knew what David Zaslav was about to do at Warner Brothers, and he got the hell out of there. And Nolan was our dead horse that we were kicking to a pulp back at the time of Tenet.
But
But that guy, he saw the future when it came to Warner Brothers.
yeah, and that's the thing is that he is taking short money. He is taking short
Yes.
money and not think because the reason you said it exactly because the guy's not going to be there in 3 years because
No.
he's a corporate bozo
Yes.
who does this for a living. He comes
Yes.
to companies and he cuts the fat and then he leaves and he goes somewhere else and he
Yes.
doesn't care how it looks to us as people who care about movies.
His previous role, the way that he became the head of the studio that made Goodfellas, the studio that made Clockwork Orange, Warner Brothers, one of the most famous movie studios of all time. He came to it as the guy who was the head of Discovery, the network that brought you Dr. Pimple Popper. And then
Mhm.
The reason Warner Brothers is in such giant debt is not because that Warner Brothers the last 10, 20 years has had a bad run at the movies, not because their TV shows weren't making money, not because HBO subscribers were going down. None of that is true. Warner Brothers, as a movie studio, as a TV network, HBO, those were all doing fine. The reason the company's in debt is because the cell phone company bought Warner Brothers years ago and then didn't want to run a movie studio anymore. And Discovery, which is a 10th rate conglomeration of cable networks,
They make
bought
trash. They make
bought
nothing good. They all make trash.
they all make trash, and they're also not as big as people thought they were. They
Mhm.
bought Warner Brothers by going into debt. They were a smaller company buying a bigger company, so just filling up with debt in order to make that deal. So therefore, the Warner Brothers company now has all this debt that he has to deal with, by getting rid of movies. So the Warner Brothers movie studio is in trouble by no fault of being a movie studio. This is
No,
not because the
no.
Harry Potter movies didn't make enough money.
Yeah.
That is not the reason why Warner Brothers movie studio is in such trouble. It only has to do with David Zaslav buying them with Discovery. Listen, that is a simplified version of it, but that is basically it. Zaslav,
Yeah.
by nature of him wanting to own it, put them into debt and is
And
now just canning movies, sending them to the Holocaust clown Jerry Lewis vault so that
yeah.
he could make up some of the debt that he created.
And I agree. I agree that this movie is going to symbolize something more than it actually is,
It
right?
has to.
And I totally agree that we were too glib when it came to Batwoman. We were glib.
We were glib. We
We
were
were
glib.
glib.
We were glib.
And
Hashtag
and
forgive us, Batgirl.
yes. And I think, it goes back to the Scorsese Apple thing where everybody's blasting us and blasting Apple for Scorsese, this movie getting theatrical. It didn't make as much movie much money as Oppenheimer and blah, blah. It's a failure, blah, blah. And we went over this and we said it. It's because Apple wants to be in the movie making business
Yes.
and they
Yes.
want to be with someone like Scorsese because Scorsese brings other people. You
Yes.
know what? Taking a $30 million write down on a Looney Tunes movie does? It dissuades anybody
Right.
who thought they could go to Warner Brothers and make a movie that they wanted to make and have
Right.
any sort of artistic expression in this corporate environment. It is
I mean,
going to lose them money in the long run. And guess
yes.
what, though? It doesn't matter to him because Zaslav is going to be on some fucking beach somewhere
Yes. Yes.
or in
Yes.
another corporate boardroom
He'll be
doing the same shit.
yes. Yes. He'll be selling, electric porta potties,
Yeah.
and he'll be the
Which
CEO of
is a
that
business he
company.
should be in.
He
That's what I'm
should be in. I
saying.
would I would love it if he was the one who was the CEO of the porta potty that I sit on. Well,
Yes.
I'll never sit on a porta potty, but you're working in the, down in the salt mines and you're covered in soot. So you need a great porta potty company out there. And
Yeah.
I that's what David Zaslav should be doing. But look at Barbie. Warner
Mhm.
Brothers, big hit that. Again, we look at it, that movie could have been shelved if it was scheduled at a certain point of the year where David Zaslav was looking for a tax refund.
Mhm.
Greta Gerwig directs the biggest movie of the year, one of the biggest, sort of directorial box office hits of the decade. And in the past, that would have been a director that Warner Brothers builds a building for on the studio lot and says,
Yes.
your next 10 years worth of movies, we're here for you. And that didn't happen. She went to Netflix, and we hate that because Netflix doesn't put movies in the movie theaters. But I think that shows you the state of Warner Brothers and the way this town and the big talent looks at David Zaslav. The fact that Greta Gerwig, coming off of Barbie, didn't immediately get signed to a Warner Brothers deal, that she
Yeah.
didn't want it, that they didn't move heaven and earth to make that happen. That shows you what the big talent in Hollywood think of Warner Brothers, and it's only getting worse coming off of this Acme v. Coyote situation.
And you know what? Is Clint still is Clint doing juror number 2 with Warner Brothers?
I'm not sure because coming off of his last movie, Warner Brothers made it sound like they were out of the Clint business. I
Cry
don't know if
Macho.
Juror Number 2, yeah, after Cry Macho, is a Warner Brothers film. That's the one where someone's on a jury and they
Nicholas Holt
realize
is on the
that
jury.
Nicholas Holt is on a jury, and and yes, that is being distributed by Warner Brothers. It may never
But
come out. That movie, this Clint Eastwood directed film starring Nicholas Holt, great premise. Someone's on a jury, and as the case starts, they realize they're the one who committed the crime. Amazing premise. Clint Eastwood, one of the best directors of all time. Nicholas Holt, not a box office star, but a really fine actor.
mhm.
That movie, Juror Number 2, it's Warner Brothers. There's no guarantee that movie will ever be seen by anyone other than test screenings and Allison Eastwood.
I'll tell you what. If juror number 2 becomes a casualty of Zaslav, I do think that's when Hollywood does stand up.
Well, that's when Zaslav becomes a casualty of
Of Clint
Clint Eastwood's
Eastwood.
Magnum. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Now, juror number 2 is supposed
he
to be his
should go
final
out that
film.
way. Honestly, Clint Eastwood going out murdering a billionaire studio head.
Well, be careful. Be careful here. Be careful here.
No,
Be
no.
careful.
Okay, you're right. You're right. You're right. I'm just saying, in a movie, that's a great movie
Yes,
for him. Is what I'm saying. It's a
because
great movie for Clint Eastwood.
you almost stepped in it there.
But
Juror,
I of
you
course
sidestepped it. No, no,
sidestepped it. Yeah.
there's no shit on the boot.
No.
Juror number 2 is supposed to be Clint's final film. It's not going to be his final film, huh?
No. Huh.
There's no way. If juror number 2 comes out, it's a hit, which I think it could be.
Oh, great
Because The
premise.
Mule made over $100 million
Movement.
not that
Well,
long ago.
but
Okay.
hey, Zaslav could get a $15 million tax write down on Juror Number 2.
And that's the thing. If that happens, if they do a tax write down on juror number 2, which is Clint's final film, I think all hell breaks loose. I think that's the one. If Batwoman didn't do it and Acme didn't do it, juror number 2 will do it. And
Yeah.
you know what? You're right. The fact that juror number 2 ain't safe, that makes Warner Brothers and Zaslav look like idiots.
Yeah. He said
Doofuses.
it. You said it. Wow. 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 I mean, talk about cutting the shit.
Yeah.
Talk about cutting the shit there. Yeah. I do think this story is going to get bigger because, again, people in the industry do seem mad. And I think it is because the people have seen this. Apparently, this is a good, fun movie. Is this no, is this likely a best pick? Of course not. But for
It's
what
going to
they
get better and
made,
better with retelling. Come on, this thing is
oh,
probably going to be fine. All right, let's not, because the
no,
quality
I'm
of
not
this
saying.
movie means nothing.
No, I do think it. Well, listen, no matter what, this movie should have been released. But I do think there is a difference between a movie that if everyone sees and they're like, man, this is damaging if we put this out, versus a movie that is probably pretty good for what it is. This is not trying to be an Oscar movie. It's trying to be a family comedy animation at live action hybrid comedy movie. If by all accounts this movie succeeds in what it was supposed to do and it still gets shelved, that is a bigger deal than if it's a disaster, because there have
That
always been movies that have been disasters and then they get shelved to some degree. They wind up in video stores, they wind up somewhere. This is a different case where you can never see it again. But bad movies have always had their releases tabled, reduced, whatever. That's part of the movie making business. But a movie that is really good or good, succeeds in what it was supposed to do, which I believe this movie probably did. And
okay.
it was co-written by James Gunn. So why would we think it didn't pull it off? He's a good comedy
Yes.
movie writer. So I'm sure this is pretty good. And this is the type of thing that, for whatever Cena does well, this is probably his wheelhouse, right?
Yes.
So I would bet those reports are probably accurate-ish. This is probably good. And that, I do think, makes this worse because nothing is safe. You know what I mean? Nothing Warner
Yeah.
Brothers makes is safe. A filmmaker after Batgirl could say to themselves or be told by Warner Brothers executives, hey, listen, that was really a disaster. We couldn't show it. This would harm the brands. It was really, really bad. If people in Hollywood believe that this Acme movie was good, then they go into any deal with Warner Brothers knowing nothing they do can guarantee the movie they make will be released. It doesn't matter if they succeed or not.
And well, that harms theatrical because then you have people like Bradley Cooper going to Netflix. You have Greta Gerwig going to Netflix,
Yes.
right? Why was Maestro not Warner Brothers?
Yes.
Right? And it's like
Warner Brothers not having Cooper and Greta Gerwig in the stable after Star is Born and Barbie. I mean, obviously the Cooper thing wasn't Zaslav, but I do think Gerwig not making a movie for Warner Brothers coming off of Barbie, that's
big.
Zaslav.
Yeah.
That's Zaslav. That's her not having any faith in this Warner Brothers regime.
10, 15 years ago, Maestro gets made at Warner Brothers. It just does.
Right.
Because that's a place where Cooper would want to be.
Right.
Now it's like, who knows? Yeah. So when people are glib, when we were glib about Batwoman and people are glib about Acme, Batgirl, sorry. People are glib about Batgirl and glib about Acme. I mean, this is going to reverberate through theatrical just in general because it's going to send these really great filmmakers to streaming where their movies are going to die and where the actual, joy of going to see a movie in a theater is going to die. I mean, that's the problem.
And listen, maybe that's the worst case. Greta Gerwig and Bradley Cooper ending up on Netflix rather than theatrical releases. That's the worst case scenario. I mean, it kills us that Greta Gerwig's post Barbie movie is not going to get box office. Mm-hmm. But maybe there will be the cases like with Christopher Nolan going to Universal to make Oppenheimer, where there will be big filmmakers, big talent who would have went to Warner Brothers and will make their movies at Universal, at Apple, which is a streamer, but gives you a real theatrical releases. Napoleon is coming out in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And it's being treated as just a big old movie.
Love it.
Big old theaters. And Universal, Paramount, and studios that are still releasing big movies. Maybe Universal will just continue to benefit. They'll steal away the Nolans. Maybe Bradley Cooper gets the Leonard Bernstein thing out of his system, and his next movie is Universal, God willing.
Or Sony, who knows? Sony.
Or Sony. And of course, Sony.
Good things.
But it just, this story, I do think it ain't over. I do think this is going to have legs. And you've got people like, James Gunn's going to have to keep his mouth shut because he wants to make these DC movies. He wants to make Superman.
Yeah.
And John Cena, listen, he's a good soldier and he's got Peacemaker. But I think those are people who are so well liked in the industry. Of course, John Cena is not a giant movie star and all that, but he is someone who I think it sends a shiver down the spine of big talent when they see a movie starring John Cena, produced and written by James Gunn, that gets the Holocaust clown vault treatment. Because for the grace of God, that could be me.
Oh yeah, because I mean, again, I like Cena, and I think he's really good in things. Again, not butts in the seats, but again, yeah, he is a guy that, from all we've heard, easy to work with.
Yep.
Does great work.
Yep.
And that doesn't matter. It's not like, here's this guy who's a big asshole, so let's stick it to him.
Right.
Right. And it's like, that's, this isn't Mickey Rourke.
This isn't
John
Mickey Rourke.
Cena.
Okay? If Zaslav shelved a Mickey Rourke movie, Hollywood would be like, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see what I'm doing. I'm doing the hitting the inside of my elbow movement, which is like F you. I'm doing
it's
that.
It's an Italian thing. It's an ethnic thing.
It's an ethnic thing. So you got to watch us on YouTube to see that. That's what Hollywood would be saying to Mickey Rourke if Zaslav shelved a Mickey Rourke star. But John Cena, everyone loves John Cena. Everyone loves John Cena. Yeah, I mean, we'll be covering this Acme v. Wile E. Coyote. The other thing that, the reporting is saying is that there were offers from other studios to buy this. And I think that is what's scary here, is
Yes.
that this is not a Batgirl situation where obviously you can't really sell that movie because it's DC and it's,
Yeah.
it's other studios wanted to buy this movie to release it, whether it's on their streamers, or theatrical use, not that clear, but there was interest out there, offers on the table. Let us buy this movie. And Warner Brothers, Zaslav said, nope, tax write-off. We need that immediate cash.
We need the $30 million.
$30
And
million.
listen, I wouldn't laugh at $30 million if it was in my bank account. But when
Of
you're
course
talking
not.
about a company this big, $30 million is a piss in a bucket.
But they've got hundreds of millions of debt just by virtue of Zaslav wanting to buy it 3 years ago.
Yep.
So they are just in full penny pinching mode. This is going to be a huge story. I actually do. I mean, I guess it's got to stick, because it's the U.S. government's involved. It's tax situation. You can't just last minute say, oh, no, we renege on that. And it's dropping on HBO Max next week, and we'll pay you. That's not going to happen. But here's what I predict. I do think this is a movie that could get leaked. I think that there is and it didn't happen with Batgirl, but
well, because that, again, I think that was embarrassing for all parties. I mean, here's my big take on that one. Only from word of mouth. Brendan Fraser don't win no Oscar if that movie gets leaked. That's a Norbit situation.
That's a Norbit situation. Although he won for Norbit situation, so I don't know. I don't know. Brendan
He
Fraser
actually did win for Norbit, so that does put a wrinkle into it.
Yeah, I think Brendan Fraser was actually Norbit proof last year, even if Batgirl was bad and came out. But there's such an uproar right now about this Acme v. Coyote movie. Mm-hmm. I do wonder if it gets leaked, if something happens at the 11th hour, but we'll be covering this.
Well, I'll be checking Pornhub for it.
Yeah, and only for that. But we have to do it for our listeners. We have to check Pornhub to see if the Wile E. Coyote movie gets leaked there. Yeah. And that is the only leaking we will be looking for on Pornhub.
Yes.
When we search leakage on Pornhub, it is because we're looking for the Wile E. Coyote v. Acme movie on there.
Yes,
100%. So, listen, Clayton, we've got to get to the After BO.
Yes.
The web exclusive on YouTube. We got to get to that. And on that show, I'll just tease it right here. We're going to be talking Saturday Night Live, the new episode starring Timothée Chalamet. Full review of that episode over on the YouTube channel on the After BO. But I think just on this episode, we just have to at least just mention, because this is so specific to the BO Boys podcast show. And a listener reached out to me about this already, that at the end of this episode, Timothée Chalamet hosted Saturday Night Live. And I mean, I'm kind of shaking just saying this, because I couldn't believe that it happened. During the good nights, he ended the show. And this is, mind you, on live national television. I cannot stress this enough. Saturday Night Live, live national television. Timothée Chalamet, who once wore the iconic legendary hoodie as an act of protest, he came out wearing an Oompa hoodie on SNL to close the show this week.
Now, was it an Oompa hoodie or a sweater?
It was a hooded sweatshirt. It was not a zip-up hoodie. So it was a hoodie, not a zip-up hoodie. It was like a pullover hoodie.
Okay.
You know what I mean? A hoodie. It's still a hoodie. It was a hoodie with the pockets that I think don't have a middle in them. So you could like go all the way across. You put your hands in the pockets and you could just go all the way out the other end. I think it was that type of hoodie, but it was a pullover hoodie, not a zip-up hoodie.
Okay.
So a different hoodie, because the iconic legendary hoodie he wore back in 2021 to protest the Warner Brothers Day and Date release of Dune, that was a zip-up hoodie. And this Saturday, he wore an Oompa hoodie.
I don't think it was a protest. I think it was a celebration hoodie.
Yes, this was a celebratory hoodie.
Okay.
This was a celebratory hoodie. So, but the thing is, he did it again. He did it again on live national television. He went out there with a hoodie that made news. He wore
Mhm.
the Oompa hoodie. And
Definitely, we'll talk about this in the after BO.
yeah, yeah. So we got to get to that. So, of course, everyone, if you haven't already, subscribe to the BO Boys YouTube channel. You see me making the ethnic gesture, that FU gesture of putting my hand on my inner elbow. So you could see that on the YouTube version of the show. Of course, we've got the web exclusive after BO show. We'll be talking SNL right after this. So you
Who
got to
knows?
subscribe to the YouTube channel.
It's the after show. Who knows what gestures we'll be making?
Yes, yes, yes. Open the gates on the after BO. Anything could happen. So go subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on social medias, of course, TikTok, Twitter X. Wanna BO senior intern Christopher is killing it with the vertical clips there. He's putting clips on our YouTube channel. The man is a clip machine. So of course, follow us at the BO Boys Pod on Twitter X and TikTok. Of course, email us, the boboyspodcast at gmail.com. Again, thank you, OG BO Boy Austin,
Mhm.
for a great email. Guy nailed it on the opening weekend of
Fucking
the Marvels.
nailed it.
Fucking nailed it. Fucking nailed it. So thank you, Austin. Email us, the boboyspodcast at gmail.com. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Substack. We have a Substack, and we've got a new article from Wannabe Junior Intern Jack that is going to be going up by the time this episode is up. You'll be seeing the new article on our Substack from Jack, and it is a doozy. It is his thoughts on the opening weekend of the Marvels, and
Love it.
man, he does not hold back.
Yeah.
So you get the youth's perspective. So subscribe at our Substack, link in the show notes, and 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, and I think that's it. I think a
Well,
huge preview episode possibly coming up with Scott Mendelson, schedule permitting on his end, but it's just a huge time right now for the BO Boys.
oh, absolutely. And just, a wanna BO boy Austin OG, let's just give a shout out to his movie on Tubi, Slap Straight,
Yes,
Luminary Figures. He's
yes,
he's killing it. He's in the business, so he
yep.
knows the business. That's
He
why he
knows.
can nail it the way he does.
And here's the thing. I have been watching Slap Straight. It is very funny. Austin is killing in that. He plays a mafia boss. Great performance. I mean, his performance in the movie is on par with his performance as a guest on the BO Boys, which says a
Nice.
lot. So
Yes,
you got to
absolutely.
check out Slap Straight on Tubi. And you look at talent like Austin, the people who made Slap Straight, are right now, sure, they're going to have to take take a meeting with Warner Brothers. They're going to have to listen to Slap Straight 2 or some of their other ideas. Maybe we make it at Warner Brothers, but they're going to be antsy about it
Oh,
because
yeah.
they make Slap Straight 2 for Warner Brothers. Does Warner Brothers shelve it? Does it never get to Tubi?
Mhm.
Right? You know,
Probably not.
you make a deal with Tubi. Tubi's going to put your movie on Tubi. You make a deal with Warner Brothers, your movie may never be in theaters. Your movie may never be on Max and never be
N
on TNT.
Never
May just be
seen.
never seen, never seen. We could see Slap Straight because the deal was made with Tubi, but we'll never see James Gunn, John Cena, Coyote v. Acme because of David Zaslav. So
And
that
that's the
is,
thing. If
yep,
you if Zaslav was in charge for Porta-John Company, he wouldn't have a row of Porta-Johns. Well, you can't shit in those
right.
because those are tax write-off
Those are
Porta-Johns.
tax write-off Porter Johns. Yep.
Or he might. Who knows how that works, but that's fine if he
Right,
has those
people be
because
pulling down their pants, shaking their little tuckuses,
yeah,
just, "Oh, I gotta get there, I gotta get there." Nope, sorry, those porta johns, those are a tax write-off, so you can't crap in those.
yeah,
So point your little tuckus elsewhere.
yeah. Pat, I mean, I'm gonna steal your line. I think we did it,
We did it, we did it. There's nothing left to say, Clayton.
except for Until next time,
Will
we'll
smell